Hey folks, and welcome back. Today we'll cover some hardware, namely a small and affordable, yet surprisingly fast system below 500 euros. This is not a guide or anything, just something I'd like to share with you guys. I needed a little servant for my day job to do some rendering and batch processing, so I decided to build a small, portable, but yet somewhat powerful system. It also comes in useful for hosting dedicated or co-op servers for YouTube videos. For example, I plan to record from two different angles while I build stuff in Empyrean and other games. Let's first check out the hardware I've bought. I decided to go with a micro ATX mainboard instead of the smaller ITX form factor because of expandability and of course to save some money. The MSI B450M GAMING PLUS, which I got for just 70 euros, is a great mainboard for its intended purpose. You get enough USB-A connectors, the nice AMD B450 chipset, one M2 SSD slot, a USB-C connector, and most importantly, it's small enough to fit into the case of my choice, the Jonsbo C2. This case is really small in comparison to the hardware you're able to cram inside, and it's priced just around 40 euros. The aluminum panels are a bit flimsy and there are some rough edges on the inside, but hey, what can you expect at this price point? It still looks very pretty from the outside and the interior concept is quite nice. The power supply is placed besides and not below or above the mainboard, which saves a lot of space but needs you to be creative with cable management. Next up is the PSU. I got a Be Quiet Straight Power 10 cable management with 500 watts for just 40 bucks. It's a lot more expensive usually and completely oversized in terms of power output for the system I want to build. Originally I planned to get a smaller Be Quiet system power unit, but I couldn't let this offer pass, so here we go. For 140 euros, we'll use the AMD Ryzen 2400G APU. It has 4 cores, 8 threads, and provides us with a basic Vega 11 GPU, which should be okay for now. There's nothing comparable on the market at the moment, so this is what I bought. And as AMD doesn't solder the processor's heat spreader, but uses thermal compound to reduce construction costs, a Noctua NH-L9X65 went into the shopping basket as well. Another 42 bucks. Usually, the stock cooler is enough for the 2400G APU, but as we put it into a confined space and we want a reasonably silent system, this will likely be a good investment. And finally, here's the memory. 16 GB of G.SKILL Aegis DDR4 at 3000 MHz for 130 euros. They are a nice compromise between clock rate and latency, and you don't have to rob your local gas station to afford them. So in the end, we're at 462 euros. Throw in a cheap SSD or HDD and you're still below 500 euros. I had a spare 1TB Toshiba hard drive, so it's been 462 for me. Okay, let's assemble the little guy. The mainboard's anti-static packaging goes on the table and the board itself goes on top of it. No, you don't damage your board by doing this. It's a myth. We're now going to prepare everything before we put it inside the case. CPU goes into the socket and we apply some thermal paste. If you'd like to get your religious insights describing the correct way to apply thermal paste debunked, then check out a recent video from Gamers Nexus, link in the description below. Afterwards, we remove the factory mountings and fix the cooler's mounting brackets in place. Now we attach the heatsink and, after securing the screws, put the fan back. I removed it because it's easier to fixate the heatsink without a fan attached to it. And we're nearly done. Only the RAM is missing, not for long, let's put it in, and the mainboard is ready. Let's prepare the case now. Attach the feet, here we go. Then we loosen the screws on the side panel. We remove it, and here's how the case looks from the inside. Our board is bigger than an ITX board, so we have to remove the front HDD mount. You can put a drive on the bottom of the case, so that's not a problem at all. The mainboard fits in nicely. We fix it in place and attach all of the tiny cables like the connectors for the HDD LED and the power button. Also don't forget to plug in the front USB and audio ports. We're nearly done, but as most of the time things just won't go flawlessly until the end. In this case the SATA connectors are blocked by the front panel. And the SATA cables that came with the board won't fit because the connector is too big. Luckily I found one with a smaller connector somewhere in a random box. This one worked, but we had to take out the mainboard again, plug in the cable and fiddle the whole thing back into the case with the cable already attached. We then hid it behind the board. With the hard drive mounted on the bottom and the PSU placed inside the case, there's not much space left. But after some cable management, it looks like this. Yeah, we're done. So we fire it up for the first time. The CPU runs fine and the RAM behaves nicely too, so we install a Windows 10 on it and we're done. I've been working with the system for a while now and I'm quite happy about my little new helper. It runs quite silent after some adjustments of the fan curve in the, by the way, really comfortable UEFI. The APU gets a little hot, but that's okay and absolutely normal. Also, it won't throttle until 95 degrees Celsius are reached, and even then there are still 10 degrees left until it reaches its thermal limit of 105. So don't be scared if your 2400G hangs around 80 to 90 degrees under heavy load, it's perfectly fine. The case looks good and the LED isn't too bright, so there's nothing to complain on the outside too. And if you want to use it as your primary gaming rig, there's clearance for a 22cm GPU. This means even more or less high-end cards fit into the case, like for example the Zotac 1080 Ti Mini. So that's it for today. Maybe I could inspire your own PC build a little bit or answer some other questions you had. If you enjoyed the video, then feel free to like, comment, share and subscribe. Thanks for stopping by and see you on the next Magnets and Miracles.